Mayor Michael Wildsmith, POTUS, the President. Thank you, Mr. President, for your extraordinary work today, what you did, not only by reaching out to Jersey City, but the governor and the resource that you bring. Striking anti-Semitism has been in your DNA. Why has this been so natural for you?
Well, it's always been. It's always been the way I felt. And as you know, I have a wonderful son-in-law, married my daughter, and they have 3 magnificent children, Jewish, and what happened in New Jersey yesterday was horrible, just absolutely horrible. And we're working with the governor, we're working with everybody in New Jersey to get to the bottom of it quickly.
The governor tweeted that you spoke with him, the mayor, everybody's reaching out in a very substantive way. I can't tell you how important it is to the Jewish community. This is not a Democrat or a Republican issue, and I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Michael. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. It's always a treat, a privilege to have with us the mayor of Englewood, New Jersey, Michael Wilds, who is also one of the top immigration attorneys in the United States. Michael, welcome back to the program. It was good to see you in the White House the other day.
Lovely to see you. Thank you, Zev, for hosting me. It's always a pleasure.
And you did a fantastic video. I know you had some private time with the President of the United States, and you and him taped a video. So it was great to see. You're a Democrat, and good to see that you have a great relationship with the President.
I actually represented the President for nearly 15 years on his immigration matters, Trump models, Miss Universe, and then Mrs. Trump, as well as her parents, sister, and so forth. So it's a professional obligation / privilege that I developed that relationship, independent of a political world. And I stand apart on a lot of policy considerations, obviously, from the President. But when it came to the more recent shooting that we had in Jersey City, I felt it appropriate to make sure that we both spoke towards anti-Semitism, and that it wasn't a partisan issue for Democrats or Republicans. It was in the middle of making sure that people felt safe, that they understood that the governor, who's a Democrat, spoke to the president, who's a Republican, and that the resources were being sent into New Jersey, and that people should know that anti-Semitism is unacceptable from the chief law enforcement officer of the country.
No, and do you get any flack from your constituents because you're a Democrat and you have a good relationship with the president? We live in a day and age where there's such partisan hatred that it's not even civil anymore.
Yes, and it's understandable. People react differently based on their own politics and their own notions. But I would have had this conversation if it was any other community that was under attack. And the truth is, I think my character and my the positions that I take on issues and the way I've stood up to the president, despite my representation of his family, has been respectful and vocal. If you go on YouTube, if you see, I'm actively on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News, taking positions on immigration that are against the administration's posture, and hoping and praying that eventually we will be able to get this right. And that's the bottom line here. We have to remember, when it comes to the immigration journey, whether it's Mrs. Trump's parents or others, this is a journey that our founding parents envisioned. And as people of the passport, Jews have to be super sensitive to make sure that we are not just hospitable, but that we create a safe haven in the United States, and that we don't treat other communities with disdain, and that the optics that we see matter as to the content and the special DNA of immigration that comprises our nation. And nobody saw it better than in the recent shooting in Jersey City, where I was visited in City Hall yesterday by the surviving widow of the Ecuadorian gentleman who not only saved a person from our kehillah, but then tried to protect the 50 young students there and lost his life.
You're talking about Douglas Miguel Rodriguez.
Yeah, what a special man, and what a zchut, what a privilege it is to help his wife. My law firm is going to be working with her, and I'm not accepting a fee. The gentleman was returned to Ecuador with a state-like group last night from so many different police departments and federal law enforcement, and he'll be received in Ecuador as a hero, and flags like in New Jersey will be flown at half-staff because he is a hero and he stepped up. And in City Hall yesterday, it didn't make a difference whether we were Jewish, Christian, or Muslim. The fact is that this man stood up to help children, and we now have to stand up to help his family.
No, it's so important, and it's nice to see that as far as his widow is concerned, it's not only what you're doing, you're representing them pro bono, but the Orthodox Jewish community, Chaskel Bennett and others, have raised over $50,000 for him. They've raised for the police detective who was killed to show that we care about others even beyond our community. This is a shared tragedy.
The notion of Hakara Tatov, being gracious to those, is really come out beautifully. And it was in the governor's home this past Sunday that I was approached by people in our community and spoke to the governor, the state attorney general, and also federal prosecutors. They're all hands on deck to see that everybody's comfortable and that this family and that our state, for that matter, is able to handedly respond and not allow terror to change the way we treat one another, to not allow terror, for example, to change the policy considerations and the hospitality that our immigration laws are there, and to make sure that we protect people that are within the range of fire, as it were.
Certainly the case, and our hearts go out to all the victims here. Are people nervous in Englewood, New Jersey? Is your constituents, including the Jewish community, is security being beefed up?
Security has been beefed up, thankfully, in all houses of worship. I was in a church last week, Zev, and they had actually made special arrangements. They were wanding people. They have now beefed up because of white supremacists and all sorts of other challenges that we have. Thankfully, all churches, all houses of worship, there are grants now available for people to protect the corridor leading into churches and the facilities as well. As for the shuls, outstanding efforts have been done. I originally took the leaders of CSS, which is a new group of relative recent extraction, to London to see how their companion CST protect Jews in London and Manchester. And I'm proud to say that our community is really using greater resource and initiatives now to protect ourselves. So we cannot just rely on local police or federal police. The first responders have to be people from our own community. I'm a 27-year veteran myself and still active in Hatzalah. So it's very important that we assess our own vulnerability and do something in kind. And the notion, if you see something, say something, comes from within our own sense of responsibility, our own shuls, our own yeshivot as well.
And just, I know that everybody's hearts out to all the victims and the families of the Jersey City massacre. I know you've reached out also to the Ferenc family as well.
Yeah, we've, everybody has tried to do what they can. There are multiple email groups, WhatsApp groups, and initiatives to see that the resources brought to the different families and in a way that they need it. Giving, because you want to give, you have to find out what each family, what nuance there is. And that's why I'm proud to help Martha and see that she's given safety and the greatest comfort of hospitality in America for the rest of her years, given the enormous heroism of her husband.
Terrific hero. He, as people may not be aware of, he actually saved one of the Jewish customers in the store.
He had been shot 3 times. He had been shot 3 times. One of the bullets about an inch away from his heart. And my client's husband actually opened the door so that he could leave. He bolted the doors to make sure that the perpetrators wouldn't be able to have access to the kids, and stood his ground and lost his life. So his last effort was to save a Jew, and our efforts are to save his beautiful family. And again, I felt so honored to be in her presence. There's so much love coming from her for the Jewish community, and it's so heartfelt to see just how genuine everybody was in wanting to help. And that's really a snapshot of America.
It's so important. Before I let you go, Mike, we start off with the president and want to end with that. I know you oppose the president's immigration policies. You have a good relation with him. How does he react knowing that you've opposed some of the policies that he's pushing?
It's an interesting relationship that develops, and there's a respectability despite our difference professionally. And dealing across partisan lines is something that we're losing. The extremes seem to kind of take root. I'm not going to comment on my personal relationship, but I can say that I work very hard every day to make sure that the clients that we represent, and we have offices in New York, New Jersey, Miami, and by appointment only in Los Angeles, are given a taste of the American dream and tradition. And despite the rhetoric, despite the aggressiveness, nobody should lose faith. And there are very well-intended people within the government that have created paths for people to travail. I'm very appreciative for the trust that has been placed in me by multiple members of the First Family and their businesses, and I've always acted appropriate when it comes to the attorney-client privilege and the professional responsibilities. Despite my differences, I'll never disparage the president, but if given the opportunity to set facts correctly, I will be given, and I'm always strong to do that. So, again, your listeners should go on YouTube and see the information. Our country is a country of immigrants, and our community particularly has to be very smart the way we handle this. I'm a former federal prosecutor, Zev. I know what it's like to want to rid ourselves of challenges, but America's doors need to remain on a hinge so that we can close it and protect ourselves against those that would want to cause some insidious harm to us. And it also has to be wide open for the greatest entrepreneurs that hail from immigration. And I would urge your listeners to get my book. It's called Safe Haven in America, Battles to Open the Golden Door. Alan Dershowitz did the forward to the book, and it talks about it chronicles some of the cases that our office has been in, many that have affected the Jewish community as well. I've lately been very active with the Israeli Witness Protection Service as they're trying to place their protectees throughout the world with contract countries that they have. There's a lot of immigration-related content that has effect on our community as Jews in the diaspora need and want to settle in the United States.
And Israelis have been caught up in this whole immigration saga. It's harder to come into this country all over, and so obviously some solutions have to be put in place.
Or they fall out of step, Zev, sometimes because of medical or economic or other reasons as well. So it's important that we view these things with a bigger heart than a puritanical view.
My final question is, in today's day and age, because of the partisan rancor, there's also been attacks on the attorney-client privilege. Do you find that that's being eroded in today's climate?
No. I'm very specific about getting permission from people in writing to speak about their cases, and I teach 2 classes at Cardozo Law School, of which one has a strong ethical component, and respecting the confidentiality and avoiding conflicts and everything is.
And that's on the
critical.
attorney level, but on the federal level, because of what's going on in Washington, there. And I spoke to Alan Dershowitz about it, and Nat Lewin. There's been an erosion, at least in their opinion, of attorney-client privilege, where the government has been eroding those rights. It's not what it was.
Maybe in a different kind of context. In the immigration space, your documents are your privacy. The government cannot share it with a third party. Both Mr. Lewin and Alan Dershowitz refer lots of cases into our office, and I have not seen a deterioration in the government's respect of the attorney-client privilege.
I think of the high-profile case like Michael Cohen, for example, there have been cases where the attorney-client privilege has been compromised, and some of
that's not in my space, and I can't really speak to that.
Mayor Michael Wilds of Englewood, New Jersey, one of the top immigration lawyers here in the United States, religious, proud, not afraid to speak out on behalf of our communities, written books. He has a family of actors. His father was also very active. His brother is doing great work with Manhattan Jewish Experience. Thank you for being with us. Continued success.
Thank you, and thank you for making time for me.
Thank you, and we're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned.